Hi, and welcome to I in the BIM. This is a blog and a webinar series by the CEO and founder of BIMobject. So chapter 1, what is actually properties, attributes and metadata? And how is that handled in the BIMobject Cloud? So first of all, let's have a look back in the last 30 years where evolution took us from 2D CAD, basically imitating the drafting, which was basically symbolic and lines and dimensions. We then moved in to 3D CAD where we could make high quality 3D renderings and visualizations. Still, we were not having any information whatsoever in the models. This all evolved in the last 15 years into information modeling, where components are like Lego pieces containing very much accurate data about the different products, materials and components in the data model. So a model can consist of different type of products, so-called categories. These have different type of metadata. So for instance, the window you see in front of you in the model, this could be a generic type which has very little information in it. It often comes from the software vendors and it has no real connection to reality. These objects we don't host on BIMobject Cloud, we only host components which comes from real manufacturers and describe real products. So in this case you see a Velux window. This have a huge amount of constraints, intelligence, and it knows exactly how the configuration of the product is to be. And what we will speak about now is the definition and how we handle properties, which sometimes also called parametrics or attributes in the models. So let's have a look at the real thing. So this is the BIMobject Cloud. It consists of 250,000 BIMobject files in different formats. We are completely software agnostic. So this is the component. So let's go in and have a look at one of the components. This is a clean out T for lab waste. It's from Spears, and actually what you see is a preview of the component. We can also look at the geometry, but what we will talk about now is pure information, why we completely leave out the talk about level of details or level of development in this series. It's downloadable in different type of formats, and of course there is then attributes and properties. Properties is just like you have fields in a database, because actually BIM is about the data and it's like a database. So you have different type of numerical parameters, like the edition number here. We are in edition number 1. You can also have different categories. You can have long text parameters like descriptions. There can be URL links to installations, instructions and other things. These can also be properties. There can be related information. There can also be properties which actually comes from a big database. And this is typically when it comes to classifications, and this is actually what we will talk much more in detail about in another chapter of this series. We also have very special and unique region parameters. And let's have a look. If we go in and now actually use Spaces. So Spaces is our technology based on Autodesk Forge, where we actually can open up these components. So now you can see how it looks in the geometry. And actually it also shows you what is the content of the file when it comes to properties. So you see also that there is quite a lot of more properties than were visible on the product page for different reasons. So not all the properties are available on the website for viewing. You can, for instance, bring up a YouTube clip. If you use and click here, it will take us directly to an installation instructions, how you actually use these tools, which is very helpful in different ways. So all this data actually is transported through the file formats, regardless if right now this was a model and using Forge, you upload a Revit file. If this would be an IFC file, or you will take it into Solibri or any other application, this data will tag along, so to say. We can also look at this from other aspects. There can be other additional properties in the tools. As we have migrated over all the Seek data, and actually this is also another chapter, we will talk about how the style guide of Revit is implemented into our database from the beginning. you can see that there is an additional content in this particular pressure zone assembly from Ames. This is also, they also have their own Ames Fire and Waterworks properties, which is additional properties that they actually work with. Another example is burner. They also have their own, so they have other values for the HVAC air curtains, depth, height, and width, which they add to it. And there is many other examples how these are used. Properties can also be part of configurations, and sometimes in BIMobject product pages you do see a 3D button. This means that there is parameter or might be parameters which can be configurable, and they have an impact on the actual component. This can be, for instance, level of detail, what you see here, and it can be other type of configuration property sets. We can have a look at this vanity unit from Svedbergs, and in this case the parameter is a color, so I can actually change the color and I can then modify. So some parameters are actually modifiable. It can be length, it can be size, it can be color, or different type of materials or other type of settings. You can also have Boolean operations or Boolean parameters, which could be a switch on off, so to speak. To have another look, we can at BIMobject do showcases, so a product page can also hold a whole set, the whole installation, and this is actually showcased here. If we have a look at how this looks like, so this is a showcase of a whole installation from Valseer. And of course this is now a model because it consists of many different components. And of course if we double click on one of these in spaces, we'll be able to actually now see the content of this particular component and product. You can find installation instructions. You see there's a vast amount of components. And what's very important to know is, and that's also actually another chapter, how we maintain and update this data, because that's one of the unique features of the BIMobject Cloud and the apps we provide for more or less every single BIM and CAD system, is that there is a call to home function. And this is actually what's called a product GUID. So there is a product identifier which is unique to this component. This is an internal number and code what we use in our database. The other one, which is a little bit simpler, is the product data URL. So actually by clicking on this one, it takes you directly to the product page. And this means also that you can actually keep a lot of properties external in BIMobject. You don't need to have all the property sets added immediately into component. That can be done further down the road. What's also unique is that you see I'm logged in as the manager of Valseer. This means also that I have editing capabilities of the centralized external data. So all these properties exist in the files, as you see here, that can be downloaded, but they also exist as, so to see, the mother of and the centralized version. So what happens now if I go into edit mode, this is the view of a product manager from Valseer or from BIMobject or any third party that actually maintain and update these data. So I will not go into detail in this chapter about how these are updated, but you can easily see that it's a very simple interface where you actually now can maintain and update the properties directly in the administrative user interface. So you have options. In this case, you look at the MBS, you have Uniclass, you have all these kind of things. You also have the ability to add additional properties and then choose from a vast number of standards. So for instance, optimizing it for ARCOM to get master spec, following the BIMobject Seek properties, because we chose a category, you can see that now it's available for adding a lot of data, which is actually part of the BIMobject Seek Autodesk Revit style guide. Also COBE and so on are part of this. So this is very much the way to update and maintain this data. The last thing I want to show is using a BIM supply and our spaces. in a complete model, just to exemplify this a little bit more. So this is actually a Revit model which is uploaded to Spaces. And how can we know that this is a proper BIM model with proper information and rich data and properties? So it's quite easily done by actually zooming. We can go in and actually double click on this component. We can also use it and actually focus on this one, so we can isolate it. Now we only see this product. What you see now here is that this is all the different properties in this object, in this model. If you look at the different ones, we can now again use the call home function, the URL. Clicking that will take us to the product page, which now contains the original one, where also all the other data is stored. You can also see that a lot of properties actually are not filled in. And this is the beauty with BIMobject platform, that if you add installation instructions later on, even if there is thousands of downloads, these can then be, with our version handling, updated properly. You see here is copy data, not filled in, but the properties are here, so they're already named and ready according to standards. There is other type of data needed for calculations. There is materials and finishes. There is a lot of analytical properties, and also some unique IFC properties with different type of classifications. So you see it's a lot of parameters and properties needed to follow all the different standards around the world. This also means that the beauty of our system is that since we externalize and centralize all this knowledge about the naming conventions for the properties, this means it will be consistent every single time you use BIMobject platform and the tools. So let's have another look at one. We can actually take, we do like this, we show all objects again, and we use the tool to actually stretch a little bit this upwards. So I would like to take it from here, and let's look at the building from the other side. I have some components I would like to have a look at. So we'll go in a little bit into the building. I'll change this a little bit so I can actually cut these sections any way I like. And I'm now interested in the rails you see up there. I want to have a little bit better look and understanding about these rails. So since this is now a BIM model, it's not hard to start to analyze and see what kind of product is chosen and what kind of information it contains. So the railing, it's on the third floor. You see the length. It also have a type name. It's a Norwegian rail. The model is railing for stairs. We can also look at again at the product data URL. It says that it's a Mittaug, and we have then additional information also here. The beauty of this also, if I would now have another language, so let's say I will switch to my native language, it means that now I can read this in Swedish. I can also see my local sales rep and get in contact with them directly from the model. It also have all the COBie parameters prepared, a lot of construction parameters, classification codes and so on. And you see, even if all this is not at the moment filled in, the data will still be in the central site. So either the user will update something, if it's a COBie parameter like installation date, it needs to be updated by the user in the as-built model, but it can also be something that can be updated by the manufacturer as we go along. And this means that we can have a full level of information in our system where we have everything externalized. And basically at the moment there is almost 1,000 manufacturers in our system. It means also with our product managers and all the different product manager and marketing people who work with this system, simultaneously there's thousands of people who actually update and make these metadata and attributes trustworthy and up to date. So that was everything from this chapter. So I hope you have a little bit better understanding about what properties are and also how we handle them in the BIMobject Cloud. Thank you very much.